So if you're into axe collecting, and chances are if you found yourself on my channel, you might be, or you might be interested in it. Chances are you're going to come across a head that's one that's worth saving, right? It might be a little bit worse for the wearer, but it's it's one you like. Maybe it's sentimental, maybe it's valuable, maybe all of the above. But I would say this one falls into one of those categories. Not particularly sentimental to me. I found it on eBay, but it's a Connecticut pattern, which is usually one of the more desirable ones, and it's got a pretty full bit. It's got a decently nice stamp too. So when this axe came to me, it had been soaked in either vinegar or evaporust. Judging by the pitting, my guess is vinegar. So it's a little bit on the pitted side, but the main concern or issue with it is the mushrooming on the pole. That's one of the most common things you're going to come across when you're out picking axes. You find them at flea markets or garage sales. People tend to beat on the poles with hammers or other axes, use them as wedges. So you're going to come across some damage like that. This is a nice axe, so I want to try to save it. I figured to make an interesting video of me kind of walking you through my process on how to get it looking good again. It's not going to look brand new. I'm not going to sand it down or anything so much. It's going to get rid of all this pitting, but I will do a, plan on taking a file to this mushrooming, which is fairly heavy. You can kind of see there. Camera will focus. Some decently heavy mushrooming. Definitely worse on this side. Which thankfully this is the non-stamp side. So, but I'll take some of that mushrooming out with a file and some sandpaper. Kind of clean up the head overall, and then probably give it some cold bluing just to give it some color back, because when you soak an axe in either evaporust or vinegar, you pretty much strip off any patina that's on there. So this is kind of just shiny bare steel. Yeah, so I might end up selling this axe afterwards. I've got a nice house handle here, 28-inch, curved, that I can probably thin down and do my usual treatment to. So maybe I'll make a full axe build video out of it, or series out of it. If you'd like to see that, definitely let me know. But I figured at least a standalone video on how I clean up an axe head where you kind of get it looking just a little better off. So kind of like I said before, I think one of the first things I'm going to do is just kind of start working on removing some of this mushrooming on the pole. So we got a decently aggressive file, and I'm just going to work on kind of smoothing that out. Knowing the geometry of some axes helps when you're kind of doing this. So Connecticut patterns are a pattern that kind of tapers, kind of like a boat tail to them. So they taper as they go back towards the end of the pole. So knowing that, I can kind of build that into the shape when I'm kind of restoring that. If it's a Dayton pattern, it's usually kind of squared from the eye. That back end of the eye is the widest point, and it kind of comes straight back. So knowing some of that before you go into it kind of helps you keep some of those original lines. And one of the things I'm going to do to just kind of help make sure I don't damage this stamp is I'm just going to take some duct tape and put it over it. Tell you what, this old Nicholson, it's flat bastard file. It's a big one. You can see here it's got to be, what, 13, 14 inches? 17. 16, 17? Not exactly sure what. The cutting edge, I'd say, on it is 13, but from, tip of the file to the end of the tangs, 17 and a half, so it's a big file. It's making the stock removal real easy. Still cutting really sharp. You can see that was mushroomed out really badly. There's quite a bit of stuff, material to remove. And this is cutting great, so I think I paid like $4 for it. So definitely worth the money for it. Alright, so I've done a decent amount of file work here. Majority of it with this big Nicholson. And really to the point where that mushrooming is pretty much at that same plane as that cheek. So it's really just this last little bit here. I figured it'd be satisfying to kind of watch that line disappear, so I'll bring you along for this part. Alright, in my eyes, that's on the same plane now. Obviously, I'm not just going to leave it like this before we really finish. I'm going to take some sandpaper, I'm backed with something soft like leather, and kind of blend those lines in together to kind of... Because even though we did as best as a job as we could with the files, there is slight difference in the facets of it. So blending it with something that's soft backed will help kind of blend those together. So that was the easier side. It's going to just be a lot more of the same thing on the other side now. But you can see, that side, I think it's looking pretty good. If I, versus, this side that's got the mushrooming. So get back at it. It's just a lot more of the same. Got to get the elbow grease out. Alright, so that didn't take nearly as long as I thought it would. Like I said, this big Nicholson really does some heavy lifting. So we're pretty much down to the surface level of the cheeks on the non-stamp side or non-presentation side. It's looking pretty good. Take the last few strokes and kind of blend it in here, and then we'll kind of reposition and take out some of these other dings from hammer marks or whatever. People trying to take the head on and off improperly, most likely. So. This is the part where I go down the rabbit hole too. Like, I see little dents, I see little nicks. How much of it do you leave? How much of it do you remove? That's really all up to you, and how far into the project are you looking to, take it. I'm not looking to make it perfect. I was really just looking to kind of clean up some of the damage. It's fine if it's still got a couple little hammer marks, a little bit of pitting. That's okay. I need to not get obsessive about it and go overboard. So I think the sides and stuff are fine. The bottom's good now. There's a little bit of hammer marks, but that's okay. Really now what's left is to just kind of clean up the pole a little bit. And then we're on to sanding.